Alright guys, we're making really good progress in the series so far. Before we learned about data types, and then last time I showed you guys specifically how to work with numbers using math within Python. In this episode, we're going to focus on another major data type, which are strings. We're going to zoom in on strings, see the different ways that we can create strings and actually work with them, manipulate them, all kinds of very useful things that you'll need when using Python, okay? First things first, we'll start with the basics of how to create strings. We've already been doing this from the very beginning. Remember, a string is simply a piece of text, anything between a single or double quotes. So we could do single quotes like this, and we could say hello world, right? That's one string. And then we could do another string double quoted, and you could do double quotes like this. So double quotes, we could say hello world. These are the same exact thing. So if we print them out, we'll get the same thing. So print double quotes. Let's run it and see what we get. There we go. We get hello world twice. Oh yeah, this one had an exclamation point, but this one did not. Okay, but yeah, they're the same thing. It's just two different ways of creating a string. You can use single quotes or double quotes, but there's also triple quotes. So these are for multi-line strings. Sometimes you have a lot of string content or a lot of text content that you want to span multiple lines. So whatever quote you want to do, either single or double, you can do it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And that will automatically have the closing quotes for you. And then within this, you simply put literally anything you want, and it can span multiple lines. Because with regular strings, if I want to do another line, you would have to do something like this, and this is perfectly fine. You could do that if you want to, except that it does not preserve the formatting. It doesn't add a new line here. I'll be showing you what a new line is in this episode, but if you want to have these two things be on 2 separate lines, you would have to do something like this, and it's not very pleasant to work with. So this is where a multi-line string comes in. So if we have something like, let's just do this. This is a multi-line string that spans multiple lines. Yeah, something simple like that. So if we print this out, let's see what that actually looks like. Print multi-line. Here we go. So we can see this is a multi-line string that spans multiple lines. As you can see, like I said, it preserves that multi-line formatting. It doesn't make this one single line of text. So you don't have to do any stuff like this, which is kind of a pain to work with, okay? Now we're going to focus on escape characters, which is actually that new line character I just told you about. But escape characters are a way to insert special characters into a string or to add quotes without conflict with the string. So if we do print and we have a string inside of this print function that we want to be printed out, we could do, for example, new line, the one I was just telling you about, and we could do /n for new line. This is on a new line. So this is specifically called the new line character. You can see that it's highlighted a different color because it's able to recognize that that's what it is. All it is a special character that makes it so that whenever this character appears in a string, it does something. In this case, it's a new line. So this will make it so that when we run this code here, this will be on one line, then it's going to hit the new line character, so this will be on a separate line. So let's run it and see what it looks like. There we go, we get new line, and then on a new line, this is a new line. That's what that does. You can add as many as you want. You can do multiple, so we could do double new line and see what that looks like. So now we get new line and an empty new line, and then this is a new line. So that's a way that you can create spacing in your strings. So if we do 3 of them, you get even more spacing. So that is what escape characters are. They're special character sequences that do special things. There's also tab. So if we do /t, this is the same thing as putting a tab here, because, I mean, you could literally put a tab if you want to. That kind of just looks like a space. But if you want to appear as an actual tab, you can do /t. Let's run it, see what we get. There we go, we get tab. And then whatever amount of spaces a tab is, like 4 spaces, it puts it there. So you could have a tab at the front if you want to. Put it there, run it. There we go, we get our tab. Escape characters are also useful when you want to have quotes within a string. So right now, if you want to have a string, you create it with quotes, and then any text inside of here is part of the string. So we could do quotes. This is in quotes. Now when we run this, let's see what it looks like. Quote, this is in quotes. It's not actually in quotes. So what you would want to do is just take this and put quotes, right? But as you can see, this is now conflicting with our string, right? This doesn't work anymore because when we created our string, we used double quotes. So now when we have double quotes inside the string, it doesn't know where the string stops and ends. It's basically just a conflict, right? We can't handle that. So there's 2 ways you can pretty much handle this within Python. You can either switch to a different quote, so you could do single quotes instead, because since we created this string using double quotes, if we use single quotes, it won't conflict with the string. That's one way you can do it, but if you specifically want double quotes within the string and without it conflicting, you can use an escape character. So you can do / or /, whatever that is, and then double quote, and that's the escape character for a quote. So this will give us our double quote inside of the string without conflicting with the string itself. And of course it has the slash right here, but since this is a specially recognized escape character, it'll appear just as a double quote. So let's run it, see what we get. There we go, we get quote, this is in quotes. Now it works perfectly. And we can do the exact same thing with single quotes. So if we change this string here from double to single, now we can just simply use double quotes directly if that's what we want. But if we wanted single quotes, then you would just have to escape it. So like that. So up here we were escaping double quotes, and here we're escaping a single quote to put it directly in the string without conflicting. There we go, here's the output, quote, this is in quotes. There's a bunch of escape characters that we can use. There's tons of them, but I'm just showing you guys the main ones. The last one that I want to show you guys is just escaping the backslash. So currently when we do our escape sequences here, we're using a backslash to denote that we're about to do an escape character, right? So this means that if we want to have a slash in our string, it's going to conflict because it's saying, if you hover over it, unsupported escape sequence in string literal. So this means that since we have a backslash and then T, capital T is not a recognized escape sequence, lowercase t is, that's tab. So it's like confused on what we're trying to do here. So if you run it, technically it works. If you look at the output, there's no problem. It still puts it there, but it's still giving you the warning. So the more proper way to do it is to just have a double backslash. So you're escaping the backslash with a backslash essentially. So, all right. So that's how you can create strings. That's how you can use escape characters, which is something that you'll run into more often than you would imagine. The next thing I'm going to teach you guys about is very essential, and it's called string concatenation. It's kind of a fancy name here, but string concatenation simply means adding two strings together. Adding strings together. That's all it is. So if we have something like first name, a variable that has the value of John, and then last name of, let's just say, Jenkins. If we have the strings John and Jenkins in two different variables, but we want to combine them into a full name variable, I think you can imagine there's a program that does something like this. You can simply do first name plus last name. And then we can print this out to take a look. So we can say full name, and then we'll print out full name. Let's see what that looks like. There we go. We get full name John Jenkins. But as you can see, of course, there's no space in between. So that looks a little weird. So we could fix that. But in general, this is string concatenation. You're simply adding two strings together to get a new string. And we're storing that new string in the variable. If you want to, you don't even need to store it in a variable. You could just directly print it out, of course. So you could do it like this. So we're still doing string concatenation here because we're still adding two strings together. The only difference is that we're immediately just printing it out instead of storing it somewhere. So you could do that if you want to. But to fix the spacing issue where there's no space, all you got to do is add a space like that. So now instead of concatenating two strings, we're concatenating three strings. So first name, space, and then last name. That's all going to be combined into one single string, combined into full name, and then printed out to the terminal. So it does not have to just be variables that you're adding together that have strings within them. It can be what's called string literals, or just like raw strings not stored in a variable. So we'll do another example here. We can say greeting is equal to hello, and then plus world. So here we are concatenating two string literals together to create a new string that's combined together, which says hello world. There we go. Take a look at this example here. If we have the variable message that stores the string welcome to, and then we want to add on to that by reassigning the variable and adding on to it in, say, Python programming. This variable here will now store welcome to Python programming as one single string. That's also string concatenation, but we can actually simplify this like we did with numerical operations by just doing plus equals. So we're doing that assignment operator to concisely add on to the current value of this variable here with this new string. So it's literally just a shorthand way of doing the same thing that we just did. All right, now we're going to learn about some of these string methods. Methods and functions are something that we're going to be learning about in more detail later. So it's not going to make a whole lot of sense if I just use the word. So it's better to just show you what I mean. So if we have a string variable here, or a variable that stores a string, we can now call special methods or functions on the string to make it do stuff. So for example, we can do text dot, and we have all these built-in things that we can scroll through that do stuff. So for example, we have dot capitalize, we have is digit, so it tells you if it's a digit or not, is lowercase, lower, so it converts it to lowercase. Let's just try some of these. So we're going to do print. We'll start with text dot upper, so you can do tab to autocomplete, but you need to make sure it ends with a opening and closing parentheses like this. So you're doing text, which is the variable that stores a string, and because it's a string specifically, allows you to call a string method such as upper. If it was a different data type such as 45, this is not a string anymore, so you can't call the method. It's only a method that works on strings. So we can do text.upper, and let's see what it gives us. There we go, we get hello world, except now it's screaming at us, hello world. So it simply took all the characters in the string and converted them to uppercase. Pretty cool. We can do the same thing for lower. Lower will make sure everything is lowercase. There we go, hello world. Another one is title case. That's already in title case, but title case basically means to make it look like a title. So the first letter of every word is uppercase. So if we run it, it's the same exact thing. So if we change it to hello world, it now looks proper. So basically a method is a named piece of code that does something specific. In this case, we're using string methods. So we're using only methods that can be called upon strings to do something. In this case, convert to uppercase, lowercase, or title case on a string. So this gives you, when you call this method here, it gives you the new value of the string that has been converted to uppercase. So if we want to, we don't just have to print it out. We could do, for example, we could reassign text equal to text.upper. So we're taking the current value of text, which is hello world in lowercase, calling upper. So this gives us back an uppercase version of that string, and then we're storing it into the variable. So if we print, we should get the uppercase version of it. There we go. And so also, since this returns a new string that's been modified to be uppercase, it's a string, right? So we can also call the same set of methods on it. So we can call lower. So the original value of text is a lowercase hello world string, right? We're then calling text.upper to convert it to uppercase, but then on that new string, we're calling lower to convert it all back to lowercase, which we're then assigning to text, which already has that value. So if we print it out, it should just appear the same hello world. There we go. So the key here is that no matter how you have a string, as long as you have a string, you can call these string methods on it, okay? So those are some of these string methods for converting casing. There's some other cool ones that we can use. So let's just say that is a digit. Let's just say that you have a string that has a number like 1, 2, 3 in it. You can then call dot is digit, and this simply returns true or false if it's a digit or not. It's that simple. So we can copy this, paste it, and let's also do one that's not a digit. So like a 1, 2, 3. So now it has a non-numeric character in there, so this is definitely not a digit. So let's run it and see what we get. There we go, we get true and false because this is obviously a digit or a number, and this is definitely not. Now, something that's very, very essential and very helpful is that if you hover over these methods, it actually tells you exactly what it does. So you're going to learn how to read this in a minute when we learn how functions work. But for here, you can just read the description. So return true if the string is a digit string, false otherwise. A string is a digit string if all characters in the string are digits and there is at least one character in the string. So that's pretty self-explanatory. So this one also has a description. Return a copy of the string converted to uppercase. So it's taking the string as we saw and converting it to uppercase and returning it. Returns a version of the string where each word is title cased. More specifically, words start with uppercase characters and all remaining case characters have lowercase. So these descriptions that you see on these methods that we're working with here is called documentation. You can also see the documentation as you're trying to choose the method that you want by doing dot. And then you can scroll through all these different methods, right, as we saw. If you want to see what these different methods do control space and it should appear. So now as you scroll through, it gives you the description of what each of these does. Pretty useful. Another essential thing that you can do with strings is strip white space. Now, white space is just a term for different spacing within strings. So it could be spaces, tabs, new lines, anything that creates any sort of spacing is white space. So sometimes you have a string like, you can call it messy text, and this will be something like this, where it just has a bunch of spacing. Just literally add whatever you want. And then we could say peanut, and we can also end it with a bunch of spacing, with spaces and tabs and such. So now we have a string here with a bunch of spacing, but we really only care about the actual text data within it, which is peanut in this case. First, if we just print it out, let's take a look at what that looks like. There we go. We can see all that spacing in there. And this is something that you will run into when you have actual programs. You'll have these strings, and sometimes you'll have spacing that you can't really see very easily. You can have a bunch of hidden tabs and spaces and stuff like that, or new lines, and you don't want to deal with them. You just want to remove it and get only the text. So to do that, you have built-in string methods such as strip. If we hover over it, it tells you return a copy of the string with leading and trailing white space removed. So if we call strip upon our messy text variable, it should take off all the white space and give us just peanut. Let's try it out. There we go, we get peanut. Very simple. So strip removes the leading and trailing white space, but there's also specific methods for lstrip for just the leading white space. So if we run this, it only removes the leading white space, but there's still spacing after that. If you want to remove only the trailing white space, you can do rstrip like that. And let's run it. There we go. So we can see that it has the beginning white space, but it does not have the trailing white space. You can't actually see it there, but it is gone. If you want to visualize it more easily, there's a way you can do that. You can take this entire thing and surround it with a built-in function called REPR. Pass in your string. Let's run it. There we go. We can see that it adds these little quotes here. So we can see that there's a bunch of space in the beginning, but then there's nothing afterwards. If we just pass in the variable without the stripping, let's see what we get. There we go. We have all the spacing here. So that's an easy way to visualize what's going on. The next thing I want to teach you about is replacing text within Python. This is another essential thing that sometimes you have to do. So a sentence is equal to, we could say, I love Java programming. And let's just say that I want to replace the word Java with Python, right? Because this is a Python series. So I can do new sentence, if I want to, is equal to sentence. And since sentence has a string within it, obviously we can now call our string methods. And one of them is replace. So replace is a special method that takes two pieces of information. It takes in the thing that you want to replace. In this case, it's the string Java. So we'll say Java. And then now we want the thing that we want to replace it with, which is Python. So you're providing two strings as input into this method here, telling it first what you want to replace, the substring Java, and then what you want to replace it with, the substring Python. Let's print the result and see what we get. There we go. I love Python programming. It worked perfectly. Now this may be a little overwhelming, calling a method like this and having to pass in stuff in. We've not done anything like this before, so don't worry about it. Don't sweat it. This is just something I'm showing you so you know it's possible. And then in future episodes, I'll be showing you guys specifically how to work with functions and methods so that it'll make complete sense, okay? So just know that it is possible to replace substrings within a string like we just did here using the replace method. But you don't have to memorize it off the top of your head. You don't have to worry about that, okay? Okay, we're almost done. Another essential thing I want to show you guys how to do is getting the length of a string. This is something that you'll do very, very commonly. So if we have the string above sentence that stores I love Python programming because we reassigned it, let's just say that we want to get the length of it. Let's do print and we'll say length, and then we'll print out the length by doing len, stands for length, and then you can pass in the variable that you want to get the length of. So in this case, we're not calling a string method because we're not doing sentence dot something like that. We're instead using a built-in Python function called len, or length, that can give you the length of something. In this case, it's the length of a string, right? So if we run this, we get 23. So that's the length of this string here. So if we want to, we can print out the length before and after we do the change. Let's do it like this. So let's run it, see what we get. Oh yeah, we changed it to be a new variable. So we're going to get the length of the new variable and the old variable. Let's run it now again. There we go, 23 and 25. And that's it. That's all I want to show you guys for this episode on Python strings. Now we know how to create strings, work with them in different ways. We can use escape characters or escape sequences. We can use string concatenation to add strings together. You can add as many as you want. You can store it in a variable, you can print it out, whatever you want. We learned how to also do string methods, which is very essential because Python has built-in ways to manipulate strings in different ways that you can just use out of the box. So that's how you can use them, by calling these different methods here. And we only went over a few of them, but there's a bunch of them that we can use. I also showed you guys how to remove white space using those string methods, because sometimes you'll have some white space you want to remove. I really hope this part was not too overwhelming. I'll see you guys next time we learn about something new.